So good evening, everyone. I'm SJ, UK Coach Development. This is our Zoom call tonight with the fabulous Luigi
Gratton.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you all. I've been in the company 3 months, family medicine doctor by training.
Fantastic.
And I have 2 specializations. After medical school, I went and did a residency in family medicine. And I did a 1-year training in clinical nutrition after those 3 years. So this was sort of my specialty, seeing patients who have nutrition issues, diabetes, obesity, high blood pressure, thyroid issues, you name it.
Wow.
Even eating disorders, not only the overweight, also the underweight and anything in between. So, and I just been working for another nutrition company for a while, but landed here just a little over 3 months ago. So nice to see you all.
Fabulous. So do you think you might have some answers to some questions you may have? Give us a nod. You can be interactive on this call. Yeah. So yeah, we want this to be kind of quite relaxed. That's how our calls roll, but educational as well. Now we know, and I've talked to Luigi, obviously there's the objections around the price constantly, and we're still educating everyone on the value of Shakeology and giving you certainty and some posture when you're presenting it and talking about it. But what would be great is if you can kind of post any questions that you may have, because I'm going to mute so we don't get background noise. But if you could just post any specific questions, and don't worry about it, just anything, you know, all those ones that are in your head that you think either you've heard or that you've got as a question, as a coach, that would give you more confidence when you're presenting Shakeology to people. So pop them over in the chat there. But initially, I know Luigi's just going to talk about what you think. Just
so I can tell you about, so having worked in the industry for a little over 13 years, shakes have become very commonplace now. And I'm going to leave some room for SJ. I'll do this, and if you pop in, then I'll pivot. But so shakes have become commonplace. In fact, any hotel that you stay at, if you're on holiday or vacation, you're most likely going to see a shake or a smoothie or, you name it, a breakfast pick-me-up on the menu, because now people consider them food. Like 20 years ago, it was really kind of weird. 25 years ago, it was like a shake is total supplementation. Now people associate it as kind of a part of their day, and it's not so weird to talk about a shake. But shakes come in different forms. So there are protein shakes. There's just tubs of protein that you can buy. And I want to go through this little short checklist because this is probably a lot of the customer questions and pushback that you'll get. Like, hey, this shake is a relatively premium shake in Shakeology. I can just get a tub of protein at the corner store. Why is your shake costing so much? So that's one of the issues. Just remember, we're not just a protein shake. We're far beyond that. It's really a complex blend of ingredients, which I can try and go through very quickly, try and keep it simple. But so that's one thing. The purpose of the shake is not just for weight management. People can use it to lose weight if they want, but that's not really the target of the shake. When you think about why they made the shake here, Darren and Isabel, it's for complete nutrition. That's why we call it the daily dose of dense nutrition, because it's got all of the things you need, the macronutrients, the micronutrients, all the bells and whistles that we can talk about in just a second. So you also want to understand that a lot of things in the market are just very low calorie, maybe 90 calories. They may be powder or ready to drink, and they're designed to just cut calories and serve as maybe a simple meal replacement. They're usually very basic. They're not premium shakes. They may have, let's say, a commodity like a soy protein or a corn sweetener. So those are something your customers may bring up. Like, hey, I can get a tub of protein, or I can get I don't want to mention any names, I can get a cheap meal replacement shake. But those are different than our blend. Okay, so those are the 2 things that I hear quite a bit. The objection to getting a tub of powder of just basic protein, and that's usually very cheap dairy protein or very cheap soy protein. Those are often genetically modified. And I know most of your sophisticated customers, especially in the UK, are not looking for genetically modified ingredients. So let's get into Shakeology. So the purpose of Shakeology is really, think of it as a food. The only reason that we don't put the healthiest meal, the healthiest food that you can eat of the day, is because the calories are low. And the European Food Safety Authority, really the governing bodies in Europe, to have a true meal replacement, you've got to be closer to 200 calories, probably about 230 in a lot of countries, including Canada. So ours is 130, 140 calories. It's low, but it's packed with nutrition. That's why we say daily dose. Okay, so imagine, let's go through the building blocks. And you let me know, SJ, if this is getting really boring.
No, this is great.
Okay.
Keep going.
So we'll go
Just start falling asleep.
Okay,
right. Just start nodding off or something.
You guys just comment like, boring, change please, right? But, or like I said, just we'll go through the questions. So we'll quickly go through. I'd like you to think of, for the new leaders who are in town this week, I'm working with SJ with the New Leader Conference, and I'm going to give you a sneak peek. We're going to go through 5 nutrients or 5 areas. One is protein. Most people who sell shakes, most companies, their driving force is the protein. That's what they like to rest on. We're way more than protein, but just understand that protein is a big component. We have about 16 to 17 grams of protein, okay, per serving, and it's a very high quality protein. So this is what I usually like to tell customers or new coaches that you're working on signing up. We have this phenomenal blend, and it's very challenging to find protein that's not genetically modified, such as ours, the rice, the pea, the sacha inchi, the oat, the chia, the flax. And of course, if we're using whey protein, if you're using the whey blend, it's a very premium high blend. We know that many of you, if you're retailing Shakeology, especially in Europe, the vegan blend skews higher there. Vegan is about 30% of our total portfolio. That's a huge amount of sales. That's hundreds of millions of dollars, I was going to say, pounds, probably 100, maybe 100 or 150 million pounds. I don't know what that would be. We're selling a tremendous amount of vegan. So recognize there is a massive potential, and companies like Huel and those that are coming out on the scene in the UK, this is what they're playing off of. The consumer growing trend for vegan shakes. Not because they're veganism, because they're pure vegans, but because they like clean labels. They don't want genetic modification. So that's a big selling point that I would recommend that you lead with. Hey, it's not just a protein shake. It's far beyond that. It's complete nutrition, but start talking about the premium protein that is not genetically modified and is really I'm going to say an excellent blend, but it's sourced incredibly well. So I'll stop there for a second.
No, it's fabulous. You keep going. You've got these 5.
So second, let's talk about sugar. When I used to work in my other job and I'd visit the UK, we would get a lot of questions on sugar. I know sugar is really vilified in Europe, and now it's happening here in the US. It's like the evil thing, right? But the funny thing is Americans still eat tons of bread and chips and crackers and cookies and snacks loaded with sugar, but they just don't think of it as having added sugar. So sugar is not a bad thing if it's the right type of sugar and the right amounts. We use about 7 grams. Okay, there's one blend. I think you have cafe latte. I don't know if you have cafe latte. No, sorry.
Don't mention cafe.
Okay,
Do not mention cafe. You didn't mention that one.
Did not mention cafe latte. So that has a little bit more sugar. It's 8 grams of sugar. All the blends outside of that one have 7 grams. Of those 7 grams of sugar, 5 come from organic cane sugar. So what does that mean? Because people are like, so what? The very cool thing, and this goes back to the sourcing, why the shake is a premium shake and has more value than the average shake. We know the farmers. We know how they prepare the soil, how they're growing that cane sugar. We know that they're not using pesticides, herbicides, or chemicals, and that is a big thing for particular consumers. Now, the average person on the streets of London may not care, but when you're speaking to consumers who care about the sourcing and the quality, highlight the organic cane sugar because it tells them that it's clean, it's already, and it's certified, so they know that baked into that quality chain that there's no pesticides, herbicides, and chemicals that are often used on genetically modified crops, because organic cane sugar cannot be genetically modified. Okay, so a very important point. The only other thing I'd mention on sugar is our products, because we've tested them at a laboratory in Europe, an independent laboratory, they're certified low glycemic index. It's a very important point because people will get into an argument with you and you're going to spend a debate back and forth maybe about sugar and what it does to my blood sugar levels and all that stuff. You can just say, listen, I'm not a doctor, not a PhD, just understand our shakes are certified low glycemic index. And that simply means on a scale of 1 to 100, if I have a spoon of table sugar, it would score a pure 100. It means that the sugar is readily absorbed into my blood, and we would track that at a very high level. The same thing happens with a cookie, a candy, or a piece of white bread. believe it or not. The sugar is, even people who think it's complex, it actually goes right into the bloodstream. So high glycemic index foods are very bad because they quickly sort of, let's just say they do bad things in the body. We have scored our shakes around 40 or below, which is by definition a low glycemic index score. You can share that with people. You can say all the formulas, some of them are about 37, some 38, 39. This is very low. This is like fruits and vegetables, whole fruits and veggies scores. So low glycemic index. I would say premium protein, very important thing. The sugar, organic cane sugar, no genetic modification in any of those, whether it's the protein or sugar. The low glycemic index is part of the sugar story. Then the third thing I'd like to talk about, again, SJ, just cut me off.
Well, actually, I just want to go back to you because I think you've kind of given us a really good objection. Like when people put, yeah, I will come on it. Yeah. See, because people sometimes say about the sugar, and I know we had a lot of feedback around that at the beginning, and it isn't just 7 grams of the sugar, is it? There's fruits in there as well, which obviously, you know, account for some of that, that sugar that's in there. But, you know, when you just said, well, there's bread that's got sugar in it, it's like, there is probably, I mean, unless they're absolutely clean eating and just eating vegetables and like 0 fruits, etc. I mean, because I did some calculations on like how much sugar was in an apple.
Right.
And it was really high.
Oh yeah, you can have apples, 80 to 100 calories of sugar.
Exactly, and yet we've just talked about how low the calorie value is of this of our bag of Shakeology. So I think you've really helped with kind of overcoming that objection, because instantly, like you said, it has been like it is the villain. Everybody hates sugar, and yet they don't realize how they're eating it without kind of being aware of it. But because it's written on a label, it's like instantly alarm bells ring off. But yeah.
And a great thing to add in on that is the fiber, because carbohydrates are both simple sugars, complex, and fiber. Although when we eat fiber, we don't digest it. It just passes through us. And that's what gives us a nice cleanse and keeps us regular. But we have 6 grams of fiber per serving, which means the fiber plus those, let's say 16 to 17 grams of protein, that's what blunts the response of sugar in the body. And that's why we have a low glycemic index. So the blend is so important to talk about. It's not just going off the checklist. It's the way it was formulated. It's very unique in the industry.
Wow, fabulous. Thank you. I'm going to move away.
Go
for your number.
So we covered protein. We covered carbohydrates, which are the sugar. And I just mentioned fiber. That's what gives you the low glycemic index, the certified score, right? You can always ensure that. The third thing I would mention is fats. And fats are interesting because for many years, fats were absolutely vilified. For those of you who are not too young, you probably remember the low carbohydrate, the low fat, high carb sort of fanatic times that we went through. Europe had that, and the Americas had that as well. Now everyone recognizes that fats are essential. So if you get your omega-3s from fish, flax or chia, which is where we get our omega-3s from, or you can also take oat oil, which is can be a blend of omega-3, 6, 9, different types, and we use that in the formula as well. So just understand you have to have a little bit of fat. And you probably know omega-3s, which come from either marine lipids like fish or from flax or chia. Those are the healthy omega-3s. Omega-6s are also essential. The problem is we're supposed to be in this sort of 1-to-1 balance, omega-3 to omega-6. The modern food supply, and especially in the UK, is tilted heavily in favor of omega-6s. So instead of a 1-to-1 ratio, we have a 25-to-1 ratio in the diet. Now, many of you probably say, who cares? Well, the problem is these omega-6 fats are very inflammatory. So we believe, most doctors believe, it's this tilting of these fats in the diet which cause a lot of problems. ADD in kids, diabetes, high blood pressure, from head to toe, Alzheimer's, dementia, all these things we think are related to the food supply, specifically the omega-6s. Now, why do so many food companies love omega-6s? It's very, very specific. Omega-3s from fish do not have a long shelf life. I just had sushi. If I took a plate of that sushi and left it here on the table, it would not smell very good in a couple days. It goes rancid because they're unstable. They don't have long shelf life. Omega-6 fats, which we can get from different, you can get from soybean or corn or oats, they tend to have long shelf life. So food companies like to take those oils, they chemically modify them, and they make salad dressing and cookies and crackers and cakes. They put them on the shelf and they sit for a long time. So omega-6s are very good for food supply chain because you can put things on the shelf for a year and they look and taste the same. But they're not very good for the body in excess. So the great thing about Shakeology and entire Beachbody line, we're very, very low in omega-6. In fact, we have a 1-to-1 ratio with Shakeology. So it's designed, when you look at the fats, which are very low anyway, 2 to 3 grams, depending on the formula, probably let's around 2 grams. About 1 gram comes from the flax and chia, the omega-3, and about 1 gram comes from the oat, which is the omega-6. So we have this perfect blend, and as long as you're, trying to help balance your diet throughout the day, a lot of your customer results come from that significant change. Reducing the omega-6, they'll tell you, I feel more energy, my skin's kind of clearing up, everything is, they're going to the bathroom, all these things. A lot of that is from the reduction of inflammatory fats in the diet. We don't talk about it a lot, but it's a big thing.
Wow.
So protein, carbs, and fats. I got 2 more, and I'll do them real quickly.
Do it.
The fourth thing I want to talk about is the digestive enzymes, the pre and probiotics. So 75% of your potential customers have problems pooping or upper GI problems of either gas, indigestion, or reflux. Nobody wants to talk about it, especially, it's not a great way to pitch a product, right?
Oh, hey. We don't talk about pooping back in the UK. That's like, we just don't mention it, do we? Although I find myself having that conversation once a week.
It's funny though, because the Beachbody coaches will often talk about I started on Shakeology and I'm regular, and people are like, whoa, too much personal information. But it's a wonderful way to pitch a new client, customer, or a new coach. You don't have to say, I'm pooping 3 times a day, but often if I'm counseling someone, ask them, hey, do you have any upper GI issues or any problems lower GI? You don't have to be too specific. And 3 out of 4 people are going to say absolutely, because everyone is stressed. They're not sleeping well. They're probably not eating well. And they're jacking up probably with a lot of energy drinks or coffee, and those cause a lot of distress on the GI system, and it probably wrecks the gut health. So the beautiful thing about Shakeology, it's literally healing the gut, the GI system. And there's several reasons why. First of all, and if you get a bag, you'll see there are probiotics and prebiotics. Let's see how this reads. If the white label is going to read better than the black one. So the probiotic, you'll see the probiotic blend. We use something called Bacillus coagulans, and you can think of BC, but Bacillus coagulans is very interesting because it's very stable in powder at room temperature. Even if it's a little warm or cold, if it sits on your shelf, you don't have to refrigerate this for the healthy probiotic, which is a healthy bacteria in the shake. Sounds kind of weird, but that healthy bacteria is wrapped in a protein shell. It's interesting. It's actually naturally grown that way. That's how it germinates. When this particular protein shell gets past your stomach acid, and stomach acid likes to chop up a lot of other probiotics in the industry, but this shell opens up in the small intestine, and that's where the bacteria, the healthy bacteria, comes out and does its job. There's also prebiotics, and these are what your healthy bacteria in your intestine like to eat. And those are your cone, chicory, all the things that you'll see on you'll notice the prebiotics on the label, and they're digestive enzymes, digestive enzymes like the amylase, lipase, bromelain, papain. You'll notice those that come from papaya and other fruits and vegetables. These are all just phenomenal things because the blend helps to break down specific things like sugars and proteins. You absorb them better, so your gut doesn't have to do as much work. And the bacteria that we all carry around every day, I've got the bad news for you. You right now are carrying 4 pounds of bacteria in your body. Sounds disgusting, right? The good news is it's not only essential for your health to carry that bacteria, but that bacteria does really important things for your body. It talks to your brain, it talks to your heart, it talks to your circulatory system and your muscles. And when food travels down your GI tract, going down the tube, it's talking to the bacteria first, which actually talk to your nervous system and beyond. It's phenomenal stuff that we're just learning about. That's the microbiome that you probably heard about. So what we've got in the shake, the prebiotics, and the digestive enzymes are all working with the microbiome to establish healthy gut health. And that's why people talk about pooping so much when they're in Beachbody. So,
and I think in the UK, probably a lot now, there's a lot of people taking Antacids or, that seems to be the go-to. It's like taking, as we call it, Rennie in the UK for indigestion. That seems to be a real big problem. So would these probiotics and prebiotics really help with that?
So important.
Okay.
The interesting thing is, we all have stomach acid. It's called hydrochloric acid. It sits there. And when people are extremely stressed and they're not eating right, that acid can sort of chip away and eat away at the layer of the stomach. You've got a fluffy covering in your stomach, but sometimes ulcers can form, and people get gastric ulcer, or they get sort of peptic issues, because the acid will either eat away the lining of the stomach, or it will spill up into the esophagus, because you have valves here. You have 3 different valves. Some of those valves become incompetent, and things spill up. And usually those valves that become incompetent because of high fatty foods, fried foods, incredible amounts of caffeine, and certain things that may open up the valve. So what do? We want to encourage foods that are going to sort of calm that down. To your question about the antacids, there are plenty of healthy bacteria that live in the stomach with all those acids, and they're doing their job, and we also want to sort of feed them as well, believe it or not. So we're just learning about all the microbiome, but what we know is the healthy probiotics and digestive enzymes feed that stuff, and feed the healthy bacteria in your gut. So that's the 4 of the 5 things. And I'll end with the last thing, which are called phytonutrients. And it's a big, broad category. Phyto is just the Greek root for plant-based. So it's a plant nutrient. A lot of other companies will say phytochemicals, P-H-Y-T-O, and that's just plant-based. Now, phytochemicals or phytonutrients are simply nutrients that come from different, let's say, vegetables. Like if you get a tomato, you look at a red tomato. If you cook that tomato or you chop it up and make a salsa raw and fresh, when you eat it, there's a red pigment called lycopene. Many of you probably heard about it. And we don't know why, but lycopene tends to collect in the breast tissue of women and the prostate tissue of men, and it seems to fight cancer. We don't know why. It just does. There's something, if you've ever had a blueberry, I don't know if you guys get fresh blueberries in the UK.
We do.
Blueberries have something called lutein, which is another strong pigment. That's where you get some of the pigment blueberries. Lutein collects in the retina of the eye, and it blocks macular degeneration. And it just so happens the same tissue that's in your eye wraps back around your brain. So it's now believed that blueberries as a power food will stop Alzheimer's and degenerative brain disease. It's phenomenal stuff. But why does this happen? It's the phytonutrients. These different pigments and these different qualities in plants tend to have these benefits on the human body. And this is why we're meant to eat fruits and veggies, right? So what we do is we take those phytonutrients, we actually try and take the whole plant, chop them up, and we blend them into the bag and the formula. And that's why you're going to see over 60 different, complex complex ingredients in Shakeology. And a lot of those are the phytonutrients. So the one thing I wanted to talk about are the adaptogens. And I get really excited about adaptogens. We can't make a legal claim on them necessarily. They're the ashwagandha, the reishi mushroom, the maitake, the cordyceps, and all these interesting sort of very exotic names. But those come from plants. They're literally plant nutrients, those phytonutrients, and they have been historically shown to help manage stress. That's how they've been historically used. Now, technically we don't make a stress claim. A lot of companies do. But Darren and Isabel, when they made the blend, they were very keen to use a really broad base of adaptogens. And I don't know if you've noticed, since you've been drinking the shake, that you just get through your day a little bit easier. I was joking on a training call I did a call with Autumn. I'm going to talk about this week. Since I've been on the shake, and I've got 2 kids, a 4-year-old and a soon-to-be 3-year-old son, and my son is like an emotional terrorist. He's just always got me and my wife hostage. Like, he wants this, he wants that. He's embarrassing us in a restaurant. And it's so difficult. The weekends were really difficult to get through because we're always sort of attending to him. But the point is, I've noticed drinking the shake, that I'm just cool now with my kids. And it's so funny. My wife's like, wow, what is up with you? You have so much more patience. And then when I have more patience, it lowers the stress in my son because he sees I'm not yelling and screaming, and then he's more mellow. And in some ways, I would argue the blend, especially the adaptogens, this unique blend, just helps us get through the day a little better. I'm not going to say it manages my stress, but it certainly is sort of chiseling away at some of these things, these impediments that I had before. So, I don't want to sound, voodoo or anything, but I think these 5 areas are really powerful areas. Now, if you went out to the store and you bought the protein by itself, you got the healthy carbs by themselves, you got the healthy fats, you got the pre and probiotics and the digestive enzymes, you literally would have a bill of 400 pounds of money. I mean, it would literally be about $800 US. This is how we've calculated the price of Shakeology. So that's why when you condense things in the blend that we created, which is so easy to use, the value proposition is a no-brainer. That's why I always realize when someone says, hey, why is this, $4 US a serving? I laugh. I'm like, oh my gosh, do you know how inexpensive it is for the value of what you're getting and the way it's put together and the phenomenal taste? So those are the 5 points I wanted to give you today. You got a sneak peek before the new leaders on Saturday. So I didn't have a PowerPoint to offer up, but I told SJ that we would do this.
Yeah, and I think it's amazing, for us to have this opportunity before Luigi obviously gets too busy. Now, I know that the UK coaches have popped some questions in there, and some we can obviously cherry pick which ones we're going to answer, and at some point we'll answer all of them, I'm sure, but we have to get through all of them. So let's have a look what we've got. Are there any chemicals in Shakeology?
So no, and I'd love to show you. I have to put my glasses on for this. So no, there are no preservatives. There's no additives. I've got a wonderful list here. I got a little intense when I joined the company because I started writing on these all around my office what's in Shakeology and what's not. And this is one of my favorite things that I wanted Darren and Isabel to do in a training. No artificial, I'm going to read for you very quickly. No artificial sweeteners, colors, flavors. No preservatives. No butylated hydroxyanisole. These are typical chemicals that are used in the food industry with all types of foods. No BHT, that's butylated hydroxytoluene. No phenolics. No sodium nitrate, no sulfites. No sodium benzoate. No high fructose corn syrup. No glucose syrup. No aspartame, no E951. These are all very common things that are used as coloring agents or additives. No ACE-K, no asulfame K, and no sucralose. No monosodium glutamate, MSG. No E621, no trans fats. No blue number 1, number 2, E131, or red dye number 3, number 40, or E124. These are super common coloring dyes that they use in sodas, in foods, in gummies, you name it. No yellow number 6, no yellow tartrazine, E102, no sodium sulfite, E221, and sulfur dioxide, E220. And last thing, no potassium bromate. These are the most commonly found chemicals that you will find in just about everything in the market. So we specifically worked to take those and make sure they weren't in any formulas. So I had to put my glasses on. In the food supply, in Shakeology, nor any of the products. So you can be very, very confident that a lot of the common things, preservatives, sweeteners, coloring agents, or even thickeners, we won't go there. Another major reason for the value proposition of Shakeology. So sorry, wow. I got a little crazy with that.
No, I love that.
I love going through that list.
And I'm assuming that because all of these ones that you've named probably are ones that people want to avoid. So yeah.
You find those on some of those. In fact, the European Food Safety Authority has been very progressive in saying they're identifying some of these as potential carcinogens. So they're starting to be recognized as things on the list, which is why your customers will tell you, I don't want to touch that.
Yeah.
So it's a huge list. We can actually, I'll give it to SJ.
I'll take a photo.
And you can reference it, but it's something that you can always tell your customers. It's not just about what's in the bag. It's also what's not in the bag. It's very important.
Yeah. And I've worked for other companies where I would absolutely cringe if someone said, I'm just going to go off and Google the ingredients. That would be like, don't do it. Whereas with this one, I feel confident. I'm like, go Google. Right. Just do it to your heart's content because we're so confident on the ingredients that are in there. So Milan's asked, what's the primary difference between the vegan blend and the whey-based blend. Now, we've only got one vegan flavor at the moment, although we're screaming for more, and I'm sure at some point.
Great question, Milan. Hello, Milan. Nice to see. Milan is like the first, founding coach that I got to meet when I was in Las Vegas at one of my first trainings. And then I got to chat with her when we were walking around. So I was just tickled. I'm like, wow, this is amazing. And I got to pick her brain. Yeah. And then we've gotten to chat when she's been in LA. So nice to see you. Thank you for joining the call. Very important question, the difference between the vegan and the whey blend. So this is specific in two areas. First of all, you'll notice the grams of protein are about the same, very close, 16 to 17 grams, okay? So don't worry too much about that. But remember, since we're talking vegan, vegan is the absence of dairy or animal-based products, right? So we're not gonna have whey. And the whey protein is made from dairy. Right? So, and I won't get into the process, but if you think about whey, it's a dairy byproduct, so we're not going to include that. So now you only have plant-based proteins, and you may notice a little bit more of a blend, including oat protein, which is in the vegan, sacha inchi, the chia flax, and the rice. So that really helps with the blend. And now when you take whey out, whey is, for people who don't like milk, no issues, but whey is very rich in amino acids. So once we've taken the whey out, we want to make sure that those plant proteins I just mentioned, they have to cover all the essential amino acids that your body needs every day, because you don't make those amino acids. So just understand, if someone's just eating corn every day, corn is okay, but it doesn't cover all the amino acid pieces, the components. So the blend covers that. So I would say that's point number one. Point number two is you may notice the vitamins and minerals are less on the profile, the label. And the reason that was done was very specific, because Darren and Isabel wanted to make sure that if you're vegan, you can choose to get your vitamins and minerals from whole foods, okay? It's a very important distinction. And a lot of people, in fact, I heard from some coaches, customers not too long ago, some people have problems with specific vitamins and minerals, like folate. There's a person who wrote me the other day, they have a genetic mutation, a gene mutation, which doesn't allow them to process folate. So they have to avoid foods with folate, especially high folate. Shakeology Vegan is perfect. So for some of those really tricky customers who will say, I've got this condition, that condition, I can't have very high levels of vitamins and minerals, the vegan blend is really scaled down, okay? It doesn't have clearly the dairy, and it has a lot less of the vitamins and minerals. The vitamins and minerals you do see will come just from the whole food, fruits and vegetables that we put in. So if there's a spinach blend, spinach carries, let's say, calcium and vitamin D. So that's naturally going to be built in and baked into the formula. So we're not adding those vitamins and minerals. So the two very important distinctions, I would make the whey, the absence of whey, but the proteins cover, and the fact that we have the vitamin and mineral cassette in the whey, but you won't see it in the vegan. You'll see less.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. So let's have a look at the next question here. We've got something about hypothyroidism. I don't know whether you can comment on that.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
Great.
Yeah.
So the question is, we had a customer who was excited to get Shakeology, even purchased the trial packs. Then they read on the back, which just says, consult a physician if you have a medical condition such as hypothyroidism. I'm sure you can pronounce that better than me.
No, you got it.
Or under thyroid treatment, and refused to use them.
It's very common. Actually, I see several questions here. 3 questions on thyroid. Very important. So basically, your thyroid gland sits here. You all have one, unless you've had it surgically removed. It sits here and it helps to regulate metabolism. Often, the vast majority of people who have thyroid problems have something called hypo. So it's low, hypothyroidism. And that means that the regulation of the metabolism that starts here, because thyroid hormone stimulates the metabolism, is slowed down. These individuals often gain weight. They may lose hair. They will often lose hair around their eyebrows. They'll lose sort of a significant part of their eyebrows. They'll get very dry skin and very constipated. So often the doctor will put them on thyroid replacement medication called levothyroxine or Synthroid. It's very common here in the States. I'm sure it's very common there in the UK. So having said that, there are certain things that can absorb that medication and deactivate the meds. So imagine if I have hypothyroidism, I gain 50 pounds because my metabolism is slow, I'm constipated, I'm dry skin, not feeling good, low energy. The doctor gives me the medication. Then I start taking a food like soy. Soy may interfere with thyroid medication. We have no soy in our products. Very important. Okay. The reason why we have to put that on the label is a disclaimer. It's really a medical legal disclaimer so that you, as a business owner, as the CEO of your own personal business, don't get into any legal trouble. Let's say you took a person who had diabetes and you're like, get off all your medication and just go on Shakeology. They have some medical issue unrelated to Shakeology, but they could bring a legal suit against you because you're acting as their medical practitioner. So we always say anyone who has a medical condition, simply say, listen, I don't think there's any problems, but why don't you just get it cleared with your doctor? And this is a great opportunity to work in partnership with the doctor or the primary care. And what I always do, I say, bring in Shakeology. Now you don't have to bring in the whole bag. SJ, if you would mind playing my doctor. So I'm like, hi, Dr. SJ. I'm Luigi. I have a thyroid condition. Can I take this? And I just give her the bag. Now, SJ is a very busy doctor. She's probably not going to have time to read the label and go and then figure out. So she's probably going to say, I don't know anything about this product. No. Instead, what I would do is I would download the label, not provide the entire bag, because you can download for free.
Yep.
Maybe cut out just the ingredients and have a small piece of paper and say, Dr. SJ, is there anything on this ingredient list that you don't think I should eat? Is there anything on this ingredient list that I should avoid with my hypothyroidism? Now the doctor has to think about specific, and the doctor knows what's wrong. If they see vitamin C and protein, they're clearly going to say no issues, right? So this is a very direct way to ask the doctor a specific question instead of just bringing the Shakeology bag and saying, hey, can I take this? Okay.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Is there anything there I shouldn't eat?
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah. And you ask them, I just want to know and you can say, is there any ingredient that you have a problem with me taking?
Yeah.
Because now they really have to think and they're, and then of course you're not trying to shock them or get them, catch them off guard, but it helps you get in partnership with the doctor because they feel like, okay, you're asking about my opinion on your nutrition. That's great.
That's fantastic. And I think that's a really great way for us in the UK to kind of approach that with our doctors. And as we talk about teams, if this is something that you have, what a great niche to go to, to go and support others in the same situation as you, because I'm sure this will definitely help. If one of the problems is you become sluggish in your bowel area, then obviously this is going to help. So fantastic. Brilliant.
Absolutely.
Let's have a look at some more questions. Let's have a look.
Wonderful. Lots of questions.
Yeah, lots. So children are taking it. Are we good for children to take it? No, we don't have Daily Sunshine in the UK.
Right, yes.
So what's your thoughts on Shakeology?
So I have, so the European, the UK is really sort of like the hub for the European Union, clearly. And hopefully, I'm hoping one day that we will expand throughout Europe and we'll be all, in many European Union countries, or I should say UK plus the European Union.
I was going to say,
UK plus the European Union. Sorry.
But don't mention Brexit.
Yeah. I won't say that. But I'm hoping we will travel east, let's put it that way, with our business, because I think we have so much potential throughout Europe. Now, having said that, everyone sort of abides by very similar laws. Even if you're in South Africa, they sort of follow the European Food Safety Authority. Even if you're in, let's say, Italy, they'll follow kind of what a lot of the laws that have been written in the UK. So you have this wonderful sort of governing body that's established a lot of the laws that go across Europe. Having said that, it's very sensitive with children. Okay, so here in the U.S. we have Daily Sunshine for kids who are 4 years and older, and in the U.S. the laws are a little bit more lax, so they allow children to have, let's say, a glass of Shakeology, maybe a quarter glass. We can't make any of the claims on the label, like managing weight or GI comfort, any of those things. Now in the UK it gets really dicey, and throughout Europe. They'll often say they don't want food supplementation for anyone under 18 because, and this is the great thing about Europe, the governing bodies are trying to encourage whole food consumption. Now, if your parents, If someone is a parent who's giving it to their kid, there's no medical issue. There's no safety issue. There's no legal problem. But the recommendation is that we're not promoting it to children. Okay, so it's safe in kids. And if one of your downline or one of your coaches or customers is drinking the shake and they give half of it to their kid, absolutely fine, totally fine. But as a part of your business, we can't go to the local school in your neighborhood and set up a table and say, Shakeology for kids, because that's not how we're allowed to position the product, especially in Europe. So I would say be very, very sensitive to the laws, especially with kids. And it's only meant to protect children. They just want to encourage whole foods because a lot of companies clearly want to get supplementation in kids.
Yeah.
So I would say steer clear of that just to be safe. And there's so many adults to sell to. There's, plenty of stuff to talk about.
Well, I'm just really pleased that it won't harm them because my children have been drinking it every morning.
Yeah. My kids too, yeah.
Because, I talk about this all the time. In the UK, when we look at breakfast as a meal, we eat cereal and it's laden with sugar, or we eat toast, which clearly now we've discovered in bread is like laden with sugar, and then there's jam that you put on it. And children predominantly, that's what they'll go to. So for me, it's been a lifesaver, and that's, and Daily Sunshine is not planned to come to the UK yet. Do not get excited about that. But yeah, so yeah. I'm glad that it won't harm them. Right. And yeah, obviously, like Luigi says, just go careful in promoting it, but just know it won't harm them if they do take it. But mine take half a scoop. Right. So, okay, let's have a little look, see what else. Any other questions we can see? So someone's asked about, do you know anything? Obviously, we've got Dr. Niba that can talk about performance. Have you done any on performance? Okay, so the GI behind performance, someone's asking, just out of curiosity.
Oh, that's a great question.
What is the GI of Performance Line Recover Shake?
Very interesting question. And Nima has become a dear, I would say, colleague of mine. I'd like to say friend. So glycemic index is very different when it comes to sports. In fact, it's often the opposite thing, because think about it. If you're exercising, there are two things you want to do. As soon as you want to provide energy during the exercise, and you want to provide recovery nutrients after the exercise. And Nima is actually quite the specialist. He's Harvard trained. He has a lot of colleagues at Exeter, and we work with those scientists, and they're actually studying this right now in real time. We have a wonderful team of scientists who are working on the performance line, and we hope to have some really cool data for you soon. It's very exciting, but it's a secret right now. But the great thing is, during a workout, you actually would prefer a high glycemic index, or let's say a medium to high, because there's two things you want to do. When you've damaged the muscle tissue, imagine that I poked a hole in this wall, right? Or I banged up on this wall and I damaged it. That's exactly what happens to your muscle tissue when you're working, doing 80-day obsession, or even walking down the stairs. You're damaging muscle tissue. Some things happen very quickly. Your muscle starts to repair itself, and if you're giving the right nutrition, like Shakeology or performance, the muscle will come back stronger. This is the whole point of exercise. We train, we come back stronger, we're able to do the same task, and it feels easier because your muscles were doing work while you're sleeping. And just like the wall sort of fixing itself, it comes back with an extra layer of paint or wood, if you will. So, having said that, with the performance line, we have not tested the glycemic index because usually athletes want a high sugar response. So that when we have pretty low sugar in the performance, and we may test it because a couple people have asked. But generally, when you finish an exercise, you want a little bit of sugar, which causes insulin to rise. And when insulin, the storage hormone, goes up, then when the protein comes down the pipeline, it quickly absorbs that wonderful whey and casein protein, and that protein quickly gets into your muscle tissue. So we don't measure the glycemic index because if we did have a low GI, many athletes might say, I don't know if I really, some people just want to jack it up with sugar. We don't put a lot of sugar. We formulate it just right so that these fast, intermediate, and slow-acting proteins can get absorbed into the muscle tissue, and they can start repairing that muscle just the way that my wall would sort of repair if I broke a hole in it. So that's the whey is very fast, and the casein is a little slower.
Brilliant. And I think Laura's asked, you know, obviously you're qualified as well in this and you get it. And the question you've got was more specific around 80-day obsession. Now, I would say with regards to Autumn and 80-day obsession group that not everyone has purchased the whole bundle, so they don't have the performance range maybe, and so that would be why Autumn is suggesting to take Shakeology after the workout versus recovery if they don't have it. So it gives an option to people who haven't purchased all of the products.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, I think we have answered everyone's questions. If I haven't, can you just give me a nudge there or give us a wave? I'm sure that you have gathered a lot of education. I mean, tonight for me, it's been like an eye-opener around different things that I think this is actually worth way more than, you know, what we're charging for, even more than what we're charging for it now. And such, I think the whole idea that you go out with more posture and confidence when you're talking about the performance range, the Shakeology, you know, that's what I'm passionate about, is that you have that posture when you're talking about it, and we give you that information. Hence why we've called Luigi on here tonight. This is recorded. If you're listening to this as a recording, please let us know, you know, what you've learned from it. I'm going to post this into the UK Coaches group. If you were on this call tonight, can you comment about how important it is for everybody to listen to this? Because there's obviously a small group of you here, but I think everyone will benefit from this. So as soon as you see the link, please share that with all of your teams as well. And I want to say thank you for staying on this call. It's now 10 to 10 in the evening.
Me too. Thank you all for staying up late.
So, and we're going to be working more with Luigi. We've been talking about running groups, local community-led groups to kind of host clubs of some sort. I know Luigi's working very closely with Alana, who's about to launch 2B Mindset. And then obviously we have Portion Fix coming later in the year as well. So there's a huge opportunity for us to work together even more and support you in communities too. So thank you, everyone. I'm sure you're all going to give Luigi a nice big wave.
I'll give you all a wave. Thank you. Thanks for staying up late, and I hope to meet you all one day soon.
That will definitely happen. So thank you again, guys. Really appreciate you jumping on, and I will see you tomorrow.
Take care.